Hello, this is my 2017 Subaru BRZ, and in this video we are going to go over replacing ACE head gaskets along with the merge pipe gasket and the merge to front pipe. I will detail some of the symptoms and show how to do it. Symptoms of a exhaust leak are your engine runs rich if the leak is before the O2 sensors, which are located right down here. I did not have that symptom. I also did not have the symptom of hearing hisses of the exhaust gas come out. What I did have was excessive engine grime, slightly oily. I originally thought that it was a leak from my catch can. You can see on the clutch actuator right down here, there is a little bit of oil or something on there, and the PCV actually comes down to right down there, and I thought it was originally that, but I tightened it up and fixed it and no longer had that issue. I then noticed that there was excessive grime on the driver's side, and I will see if we can see it now after I cleaned it up some. Down on this side of the engine, I noticed excessive oily residues on there, and turns out when I dropped the pan, one of the header bolts on this side back here was loose, and I'll insert a picture of that, and you can see where all the exhaust gases put deposits on there. So under the car, I can see that there's oil right here, there's some residue around here, and there is some oil here, which I believe is actually now an oil leak, and there's actually a little more right there, and not a head gasket, or sorry, not a header gasket leak. I redid them and crushed them, so I'm still going to replace them. But what we need to do is undo all of these bolts on the skid plate all the way through up there, and then we can drop this pan, and we will undo these also and remove the plastic wheel well guard that's up here to give us more room to work. Remove these clips right here. There's actually a tool to remove them, but I just use hose pliers, and you just put them in here like this, and then they come right out. It's very easy. It doesn't break clips, so I just kind of go like this. Let me angle myself in. And they're out. And here's another one. And another one. And now they're all out. So I removed these 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 millimeters. And then after that there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 4 on the front that are 12 millimeters, and once they're out, this pan should drop. One thing I did notice when I was taking it out is you can see a little bit of oil on my pan. It looks like potentially the crush washer may have crushed a little too much and is now leaking, so that might explain some of the oil I see, although there is not much oil around here on the subframe and bushings or the header, so I don't actually know where that is coming from. Drop the pan, and you can see here there is some oil residue, and there is some over there as well as over here. You can see some carbon from the blow-by. So if we go underneath, you can see where one of the exhaust leaks was coming from after I tightened the header gasket. So you can see right there on the merge, there is exhaust. And I would assume if I go further back, there will be more on the overpipe to front pipe. I also forgot to mention you have to take this off because I need to get right under here. So I'll also do that. One thing that I did notice is, so it is leaking, you know, from right here slightly. And I did notice what appears to be some seepage from a seal, so I'll have to monitor that. I did clean this up last time, and you can see that there was carbon right here, and a lot of carbon and junk all the way up there. I'm guessing it's because I've been driving start-stop a lot in the cold and not letting the engine get up to temp. And the aero shield, and now you can see the transmission and the steering rack and whatnot. It looks good, although I did notice on this subframe support right here, it's being a typical Subaru and rusting up. They are $40-some per, and that's for an OEM part. So I think next year when I replace this front sway bar, I'm just going to take this whole thing out and then replace it with a new one because it's rusting here. It's starting to flake down here and there. Like, that big piece just flaked off. It's a lot easier than trying to fix it and then, you know, whatever. This will be the third winter with lots of road salt. So, you know, understandable. Over here, you have the front pipe catalytic converter into merge overpipe. And I also noticed right here, there is some exhaust carbon. So there was a slight leak in this when I readjusted it. So all of these gaskets are leaking, and we're about to replace them. One thing to note is when you tighten everything from the front to the back, you will probably have to undo this one right here to get some play into the front. This is, I believe, a 14mm and just impact it off. So in order to take it off, you put it in you take it apart in the reverse order, you put it back. So that means you start from the back and undo it from the back to the front. So we're going to loosen this. We're using a 14mm socket, Makita impact, and we're just loosening it. You can see that it already had to move a little bit. You know, and we're just loosening it. And that's it, just enough so you get some wiggleability in there. It's loosened up. Now the next move is to undo these right here. I believe they are 17mm. And you can't really get a socket in there, so you're going to have to use a ratchet spanner or a box end. I was right, it's a 17mm, so I'm using this double-sided Tectin 19mm ratchet, and it's easy. You just get it in and you can pull them off. Okay, this is hard to do with one hand, so I will be back once it gets off. And as you can see, when I tightened it, or when I went back to retighten it and reuse the same gasket, it started to leak around the bottom right here. And you can confirm that by seeing on the seal right here, exhaust gases are coming through, as well as a little bit right there. This is why you don't reuse gaskets. My next step is on the other side of here, the merge to the headers, it's leaking a little bit too. and these are, I believe, 10 mils, and you need a flex head to get them off because there just isn't enough room in here. So there's one here, one up here on this side, and then one up here on this side. Let me see if I can get them. Yep, so you can see right there, there's one right there, and there's one on the back side. So I will take them off and we will be back. I was wrong. They're 12 millimeters, and what you want is a flex head here and then a little extension to get that. You pull this one out, you pull that one out right up there, and then the other one, and it's good. Turns out there's some other oil drips somewhere. I see some on the O2 sensor right here. I don't know what the deal is. I'll have to investigate when I drop my headers. I'm off, and you can see that there was a little leak up at the top. These studs are a pain. I'm going to have to pull it out with some pliers, so I will be right back. Stud is stuck, so we're just going to reuse it. What we need to do now is remove this O2 sensor and this zip tie right here. This is for my flex fuel kit, so you might just have to undo this right there. And then the O2 sensors can stay in, and we just drop the header. See that both the O2 sensors right here and here, the plugs are unhooked, and now I can drop the headers by undoing the 3 14 millimeter bolts or nuts on each side. Here are the bolts, one right here, one right here, one right here, and then on the other side there's one right there, and then one back here, back here. And the trick to this is get a flex and a 6-inch extension, so one of these deals, and a 14 millimeter deep socket, and they will come right out. So as you can see, I loosened these two and then the back one, and the easiest way to get about it is through the two tubes with a flex head like this, and you can just loosen it. Once they're all loosened, you can just hand loosen it and drop the header. Now to the other side. This side is a little trickier. This one right here you can get to with just an extension and moving the overpipe over. This one you can get with an extension too, and then this one you can't. You have to go in through this way with a bend with a flex head, and then you can drop it. Make sure that you don't damage your O2 sensors. They're somewhat expensive. Here are the two gaskets. This is the passenger side, this is the driver's side, and you can see there was a little leak between the cylinders, and that was because this nut right here on the bolt backed out some. I'm not sure how long it was out, and it was leaking between them and out some. I retightened it, but that's what led to my other leaks on the merge pipe. So I'm going to replace these crappy ones with more crappy ones. They're ace. So we're just going to reverse the process. The torque on these nuts, I believe, is 31 point some weird thing foot-pounds, and I'm just going to do 32. So I got the header in, and I put the gaskets in, centered them, and got them hand tight. The passenger side was a little tight with this overpipe in there. You can kind of wiggle it around until it gets there. And now I'm going to torque them down to 15 and then do it down to 32, just so there's no weird pinches or anything. So I have the headers in, the gaskets in, torqued down to 31.5 foot-pounds. The best way actually to get the clearance is you push the overpipe, rotate it counterclockwise, and pull it away some like this. That lets you get up into this bolt right there. Now I'm going to, since I couldn't get this stud out, I'm going to fish that in and then put the other studs in and then torque them down to, I believe, 25 foot-pounds. What you want to do is put the nut on the short end. You can see the threading like this, and it turns it into an objectionably worse bolt. And then you thread it in this way into the merger. One easy way to do this is hand tighten it and then wiggle this back part around until it feels the tightest, and just hand tighten all of them and then torque them down to, I believe it's 25 foot-pounds. I hand tightened it, and what you are going to want is a 12mm socket, flex head, and a 6-inch extension. I'm going to torque these down to 15 each and then do it to 25 each. One thing you will notice is that your front pipe and your merger probably aren't going to line up anymore, so mine's about a finger's away, but you loosened the bolt in the back, which gives you enough play to line these up. So what you want to do is now thread these two 17 bolts into the merge pipe. The merge pipe is threaded, the front pipe here is not threaded, so make sure that the head is on this side. And the easiest way to do it is thread it a little bit with the gasket in, push it up, thread the other side in, and then tighten them down in increments until they get close. And then you torque them down to, I believe, 30 foot-pounds. I can't get a torque wrench in this little gap, so I just kind of like crush it with my hand as much as I can. You can fit a torque wrench barely in there. One thing that you need to be aware of is, one second, when you tighten these two bolts right here, this gasket will sag, so make sure you push it up so it gets a good seal on here and on the top side. One way to adjust it is push up here on the cat heat shield, and also push back here around the resonator. And if you push on the resonator, that will push this side down, and obviously if you push on the heat shield, it will push this side up. I don't think that I have to say this, but I will anyway. Don't touch this when your car's hot, because it will be hot too, and it'll burn your hand. You can't even get a torque wrench into this little gap right here, even with the short socket. So just get your spanner and just crank this down to torque spec of 30, and then crank this down to as hard as you can pull it. It's good enough race car, you know. The last thing we need to do is put this on all the way. I'm just going to get my impact, and I'm just going to hit it with the impact once and call it a day. I'm going to put the panels on in reverse order. So it goes this fiberglass panel, this metal panel, and that's it. One thing to be aware of is the metal panel. It hooks into here, right there, so it slides in. So don't bolt it onto the top. Get it underneath this plastic thing. Also hook your O2 sensors up before you put your panel. It's a lot easier to feed them up to yourself when the panel is off. So we hooked up the gray to gray, and you have a black one also if you don't have an ethanol sensor, and that black one goes to this part right here. But since I have an ethanol sensor, I just zip tied it right there. That's like 5 horsepower at least. So the way you get this pan in is there is a tab right here that slides under, so slide that under and then slide this tab, and then you hand tighten these 4 10 mils on there, and the pan will stay in, and then you can put the rest of the 12s in and then tighten them all down. They don't have a torque spec, I don't think, so just tighten them. They're probably not going to fall out. If they do, oh well. After you tighten all of these 12s and these 10s, is put the clips in. The clips are pretty easy. You just make sure that this is in there. Let's see. Have the clip popped out like this. Push it through. Make sure it's through the hole. Push it in like that. It's you can see it's in. So just repeat, you know, take it popped out, push it in, clip it. There you go. You got 3 in. It gets this little shield. Yep, 3 more over here. This is a little harder. There's 1. Here's the other one. I don't know where the last one is, but I'll find one and put it in. What you gotta do is turn it on, make sure that you have no check engines, and everything sounds good. Okay, it has essentially warmed up. Okay, we're off the blocks. Now I got to move the other blocks. Okay, now just take a trip around the block and see if you notice anything. It helps if you keep your windows down too.